Howdy, Fi Guys. I just had one of those moments yesterday that stopped me in my tracks. My 401k officially crossed $500,000. Wow, how about that? Half
Cool.
a million. Beautiful. I'm 41 years old, and honestly, I don't really talk about money with anyone in my day to day life. Good. He's living. That's
Yeah.
nice. My friends aren't really into it. My coworkers don't care. And my wife, well, let's just say she'd rather talk about literally anything else, anything rather than my retirement accounts. Understandable. Just gonna hit a quick pause here. We do recommend having money dates, right, Chris, with your spouse to be on the same page financially. Understandable if you don't want to talk every day about you really shouldn't be talking probably every day about the retirement accounts. That's kind of boring. More to life out there. So he's doing good. Just small tweaks, but he's doing great. Um,
Yes.
Back to the story. So here I am writing to you guys, Fi Guys, because I wanted to share a milestone with someone who might actually get why it feels so huge. To give you some context, back in September of 2023, my balance was sitting at around $286,000. Since then, I've been maxing out my contributions all in the VTSAX equivalent. And maybe you can give us some context on that, Chris.
That VTSAX is Vanguard's total stock market index. It's a mutual fund, but basically what it is it's the S&P 500. It is basically the biggest companies. It's everything.
Okay.
If you want another one, there's another one called VTI, which is the ETF version of that. Vanguard's a great account. But yeah, it's good. I like that.
Wonderful. And last week, we talked a little bit about the difference between the mutual funds and the ETFs. If you don't know what that is, highly recommend going out and checking that out. Watching it climb from there to 500K feels like a blink of an eye. It feels surreal. But it wasn't always like this. My journey started in 2006, just doing the bare minimum, contributing up to the company's match. By the time the 2008 recession hit, I had maybe 10 or 12,000 saved. It was brutal watching those balances shrink. By 2011, after crawling my way back, I was hovering at around 45,000. Then life threw me a curveball. I became unemployed and I decided to go back to school from 2011 to 2014, which meant I missed out on some of those monster bull years. And I feel like I'm pausing this a bunch, right? So there's bull and there's bear markets. Bulls when the market's going up, bears when the market's going down. So I finally landed a job again in late 2014, and I started contributing to the match once more. Between 2017 and 2021, I got serious and I maxed out my contributions.
Cool.
2019, I remember I remember staring at my account and being blown away that I'd finally cracked the $100,000 mark. Nice. Then life happened again. I had another kid in 2022. Congratulations. And I scaled back to the company match. Of course, hindsight says that was the best time to be maxing out, but hey, life comes first. Couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Couldn't agree more. By 2023, I was ready to dial it back up again and start maxing it out. And here we are, 2 years later and $500,000. I guess the real reason I'm sharing this is for all the younger listeners out there. Contribute as much as you can as early as you can. You don't need to pick flashy investments or time the market. God knows that's true. Just stay in and stay consistent. Keep plowing money in, and the growth will eventually take your breath away. I'm living proof of that. Thanks for letting me share my milestone with you guys, because sometimes you just need to celebrate with someone who actually understands the power of hitting numbers just like this. From match to stash, how my 401k grew that cash. How about
Nice.
that? Wonderful. Well, congratulations. That's amazing. That's amazing. It
That's
sounds
super
like he's
cool.
living life, had a job, got employed, went back to school, maxed it out, got a kid. He's back in the game. I love it. How exciting.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about is like you can see that from this person's letter, like this is a journey. 2006 is when he got started, and like now he's finally hit that limit. And people might say, "Oh, that's too long. Like, why would I want to do that?" Well, what's the alternative? The alternative is that he's here today at the same place, but he's moved. And also, the thing I like is as life changed, he adapted the plan. I think there's too many people that say, like, okay, Chris, if I put 4% into my 401k, that means I have to do 4% forever. Or if you want me to say, like, I'm going to do 10%, what happens if I get hit by a car? Like, then I still have to do 10%. It's like, no, you can change this at any time. Like, this is what life is about, is having the ability to, again, be flexible, to move and shift like water around when things in life changes. And this letter is a perfect example of that, of him being able to adapt. I had a kid, I had to do that. I lost a job. This happened, this happened, this happened. And I just stayed consistent over and over. Now I'm going to get into a few things that I've kind of thought about this as you were writing it, but anything that you have, Dominic?
No, I think I'm just proud that he found something that worked. And when he needed to pivot, he pivoted. But he returned to what he knew worked. I think that's important. Once you strike gold or once you strike oil, keep digging, right? Keep pumping that oil out. And I think he did an amazing job.
1000%. So to our listener, first off, I just want to say $500,000 in your 401k is just a huge milestone. And for me, when I see that, that's not just a number. And for you should look at it that way too. That's years of consistency, discipline, and weathering storms in the market. And you should actually and absolutely take the time to celebrate that. Not just with us by writing in this letter, but like go out with your spouse. Like talk, like, do something cool. That's amazing that you've been able to do that. Because what really jumps out to me is the power of compounding. And that's what I hope our listeners take from this. Like our writer went from 28,000 some odd to 500,000 in about 2 years. And just like we talk about the snowball, that's the snowball effect in action. That's compound interest. That's more money picking up more money as it goes. And once you've been at this for a long time, that growth starts to accelerate almost to an autopilot to where your investments are making more than you are by working. And I love that our writer kept it simple. He didn't chase them exotic strategies like options trading or trying to time the market. They just stuck to what I would consider a very boring broad market index, VTSAX. And they just kept contributing. And the proof of that simple action over time beat all the complexity. Because the truth, it's not the knowledge that's typically the issue, it's the consistency. And then as life threw curveballs at our writer, they went through unemployment, they had to go back to school, they had a kid. So there were seasons that they couldn't max out their contributions. And all they did is they pivoted. And that's such an important reminder that you have the ability to pause a contribution. Just because you have to stop for a little while, it doesn't mean it's the end of the journey. And to our younger listeners who are listening to this, I want you to take note that those early contributions, they often matter the most. Because even those small amounts in those early years have more time to snowball. And that snowball that starts out very, very small at the beginning, over 10, 20, 30, 40 years. If you're getting started at 20 and you want to retire at 65, that's 45 years to allow that money to double and double and double. Just think of the rule of 72. If that's difficult, the rule of 105, that's how long it takes for it to triple. It's the exact same thing. The biggest thing to me is that this listener, they remain flexible. They adjusted their contributions around their family's needs because they realized that life in the family comes first. And then they cranked it up when life got back to what is normal or what is normal now. And that's smart financial planning, letting your money serve your life and not the other way around. That's why I don't really like traditional financial planning where you walk into a place, they give you a pamphlet, they talk to you for 2 meetings at like an hour each, and they give you a pamphlet and said, here's your definitive thing, do this for the rest of your life. That sounds well and good till you walk outside and you get sick, till you lose your job. Something is always going to happen. And that's where you need to remain flexible. Because in money, there's 2 things in life that doesn't matter if you want to interact with it, it will interact with you. And that's your health and your wealth. You can't farm those things out. Doesn't matter how much you pay your personal trainer, they can't work out for you. Doesn't matter how much you pay your financial advisor, they're not going to go spending the money for you. You need to be responsible for those things. I want to talk about one thing though, and that's that I think that we do need to normalize the conversation around money. I think by this person saying like his friends don't want to talk about money, his wife doesn't even want to talk about money. That's the reason that this person feels like he has to reach out to us. And I'm glad that they did. But you need to create a place by being maybe the first person to be willing to give that information, to make that safe place so people can share their wins. And more importantly than their wins, what they're doing, so that you can see maybe there's another option for me to get there. But until we normalize the conversation around money, it's always going to remain shrouded in mystery. It's going to remain this scary thing in the corner. But by being able to bring it out into the open, just to talk about it and say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. What's going on with yours? Be open about these things. Too many people have so much shame and guilt and remorse when it comes to their money. And we shouldn't, because no one ever taught us this stuff. We're just figuring it all out. So finally, at 41 years old, you've saved $500,000 and you're in an incredible position. If you keep doing what you're doing, that $500,000 is going to jump to $1 million. That million is going to jump to 2 million, 2 million to 4 million. And then it's going to keep on happening faster and faster than you can imagine. You just need to remain consistent and keep on doing exactly what you're doing because you have a plan. Is it perfect? Most likely not. It's not perfect because it had to change and it's going to continue to change. But you're going to find the perfect plan in hindsight. And it sounds like you're in a pretty good place to me right now. So congrats to our listener.
Big congrats from Arizona and from California. Heck yeah. Well, we're going to be moving on to our...
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.